All right, guys, this is I think my fourth attempt now. I apologize if I know it's starting to get annoying, but I think I may have figured out a way around. I pretty much just bounced out a whole lot of my tracks to Wave, so it's less for my computer to handle. So hopefully that'll be a good workaround. But I created two projects because I got a lot to show you on what I updated on the beat since the last tutorial, and I got a lot to show you on what I added for the synths and all that. So I pretty much created a project file for the unbalanced parts on each segment. So at one point I'm going to have to close this instance of Ableton and open up another project so I can show you what I did on the synthesizers and all that. So hopefully that was a good workaround. Hopefully it works. We'll see, but let's go ahead and get to it. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and hopefully everything goes fine and we don't lose audio. I'm really trying to make tutorials for you guys, so fingers crossed that all this works. So here we go. All right, so it seems like I still got audio. Everything's working fine still. Fingers crossed it keeps working good. All right, so that's what I got for the intro. I just pretty much need to create a riser and an impact to go ahead and introduce that. But I'll get to that in the next tutorial because I want to show you guys how I built everything that I got going so far. So just to kind of go over everything, I'm going to go ahead and start up here with the kick. I'm going to show you what I added to this since the last video, just so it gives you guys up to par. All right. Okay, back up to here. So kick, what I changed since the last tutorial on that is on the kick drum here. I added on effects 1, I added EQ, gave it a boost around 50 hertz and a small boost here, and added multi-band distortion and gave it a small boost there, and on the low end boosted that up a little bit and also add a little bit of low distortion to it. That just makes it more audible because certain keys that you go to, especially lower keys, it's going to be like a lot harder to hear it. So given that low end distortion is going to make it more audible depending on whatever keys that you're switching to. So I pretty much adjust that while listening to the song and give or take add more, but that's what's sounding good right now. Moving on from the kick, actually just to show you how big of a difference that was. Let's see, that's where it was before. Not bad, but that's what it sounded like before. This is with the EQ on. More boomy. and with the multi-band distortion, sounds way better. It's like night and day. Alright, so that's the kick. For the snare, let's see, from last time, what I changed on that, I think I had the clap and the snare, they were running to the same effects channel, so I separated that. I created a new effects channel and put reverb on it, and then sent the clap to that effects channel, FX3, and it sounds a lot better now that it's split up. So we got that. I added another snare layer. This one's here. Just kind of gave it a little more tone. This one's running to effects 2, EQ on there, small boost. Moving on, let's see the fill snare that I added. I'll show you. So on this one here, let's see, effects 2. I got multi-band distortion on it, EQ, and on this one right here, pretty much what I did to give it a rollout. In the last tutorial, I showed you how on the green ones right here, you could change on the roll and how many times you want it to hit, and the velocity in which it goes in or out. I put this first one on 2, and this one right here on a 4, so you can get that. All right, so that's pretty much what I got for the fill snare, and show you here. I did another fill snare layer. See, effects 2, same effects, equalizer, multi-band distortion on the drum EQ. On the drum sequencer, I put the same thing here. It's doing identical, and also too, like I was saying before, mess around with the velocities and make each note different, so it sounds better going through. So this is the two together. Sounds pretty good, and I'm thinking like maybe later on one of these layers, I will eventually do a pitch climber. So right here on the pitch, I'm going to automate the pitch and make it climb up. So we get to like, I'll probably end up doing that eventually, but that's what I got for right now. Let's see, and then let's see what we got here. Big snare. I added a big room snare. I went to Splice. Use that for a lot of stuff. I just went and found a big snare. It's more like a big room snare. Avenger X stupid sometimes. It's like on certain layers you don't want to play sometimes unless you got it open. Alright, so that's pretty much it on that. Just drag that in. And I added on that multi-band distortion. I added impulse on that and gave it a really big room on there. Right here on verbs large. And oops, spacious. Yep, right there on spacious. But yeah, that's the big room snare that I added on that. And if my computer wasn't acting so silly right now, I would freeze this layer right now. And after I freeze it, I would catch the tail end on it. And the tail end, I would grab it and move it to the front and create pretty much an impact for other parts right here. Just other like more detail. I would do that right now, but it's going to make me lose audio. It's kind of annoying right now, so please forgive me. Let's see. What else I added since the last tutorial? Let's see, I did. So I switched the percussion layers that I showed you how to make. I changed this to a 1/8, and we're going to switch to a 1/16. And just to kind of give the song, so it starts out slow, and then as it's starting to build up progression, you switch to the faster and the 1/16 when it starts to really get going. It's cool for intro. And then you'll see what I got here. So it's the same exact layer, it's just sped up to a 1/16. And if you want to see like how it looks in the drum sequencer, check. Cool. Make sure I got audio still. All right. That's what I'm a drum. And just all sequenced out. I think it's important to know, like when you're creating percussion or pretty much anything, like synths, melodies, anything that you're making. This is gonna sound funny, but I actually learned a lot from this. This video that was playing on YouTube for the longest time. It was like a commercial with Hans Zimmer in it, and he was playing around, or he was talking about how like you got a question, you got to answer. And I thought it was funny, but it's true, and you can apply that to everything that you're doing in music, and pretty much essentially like right here in this percussion, you got a question in the beginning and you got the answer at the end. So there's a question, there's your answer. So you got your in and you got your out. So you want to pretty much have that mindset on everything that you're doing when you create melodies, all that stuff. So everything just kind of just is very cohesive, and it doesn't get like stale or the same thing just happen over and over and over. And when you do this, it can sound repetitive but still sound cool if you're applying this method. So that's actually a really good tip there. So moving on to the tops. And just to show you, just so you want to see on this layer here, on the same percussion layer, just sped up to a 1/16. All I did was just go here and switch it to 1/16 from the 1/8 right there. So that's like literally all I did to change it to that. Top layer, pretty easy one here. So I got my hits here. That. And literally just like laid them out. And every other hit. Bop, 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 bop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just gonna honestly just let that run, because having that speed going when it switches to the faster speeds, it's gonna give a nice like variety going on, instead of switching all the layers to the 1/16 whenever it's time to change. Most of them are going to be switched, but I want some of the layers to stay the same, so you get the mixture of the different swings going on. So that's important there. And then let's see, hi-hats. Got the 1/8 hats going on. You notice everything I got side chains. The kick, so it ducks. And like I was saying before, it's a really good technique for helping give your percussion and everything that you add a little bit more swing, because every time that it dips when the kick hits, it honestly just adds to the effect. So with a combination of doing velocity changes on every hit and with the pattern that you created on your percussion, it creates more and more swing. So just more detail. So on this 1/8 hat, check. Yep, still got audio good. All right. Yeah, this equalizer brought up the high end on that, and then on this right here, it did the same effect for the rollouts. So here on the green ones, I'm just doing a 2 in or a 2D. Yeah, it looks like it says it's 2 in. Oh yeah, 2 in. There. Okay, and then yep, all of them are 2 in. So you notice I got all the velocities all different there. All right, and then on this one right here, it's our 1/16 hat layer. You know, it's this same thing here. I didn't change nothing. Sounds pretty good. And another thing to note that I done on this here is on the sample, you notice I cut a lot of it out, made it more of a closed hat. I thought that it had a little bit too much of a tail end on it for what I was aiming for on this. And also too, I feel like this tail end on it was getting in the way of some of my other percussion layers that were real quick and fast hits because there's a lot going on with a lot of swing. So particularly I wanted to have a really short closed hat because I just wanted the attack on it. So that's how I did that. I just dragged the end of the envelope here to right there to cut a lot of it off. Sounds good. All right, so that's the hi-hats. Let's see what other percussion layer we got here. Left this one, I think I had it at a 1/16 in the last video that we did. I switched it to a 1/8 and made some changes to the pattern on it. So you just try to like hear the main hits within the flow of it and just kind of stick with those main hits with everything in between. And on the, I just added an equalizer to it and gave it a treble boost. And so that's the other perk line there. Almond break. On this layer, nothing going on my effects here. I think really all I did was just an EQ cut. Everything sounds pretty good on this for the most part, at least for right now where I got it. But I pitched every drum layer to a +3. That's what sounded really good right now. And each hit. So just got like that basic pattern going on and just filled in all the spaces in between. Boom. So that's the almond break layer. Yeah. So that's what I did with the drums to show you what I got here for the sub. So go ahead, and for anybody that's tuned in recently, I'll show you. got this other layer right here that I'm like back and forth with. It's a little bit too much. I feel like I'm going to be able to add this somewhere later on in another spot, but I just want to show you. I'm going to have to mute these pad layers that I got right here so it fits a little better right there, but it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, but I feel like it's just in my opinion right now, at least it's a little much right now because it's just the intro, and I'm not trying to go like ham on the intro because it's just like too much all at once. I feel like so the intro needs to be like introducing, what's to come, and then on the breakdown, that's when I want to start building the tension of working up to the drop, and then giving you everything all at once kind of thing, and then working my way to the original first layers, because that's the point. Eventually you want to get to that point after you've done the drop. You want to get to that point to where when it drops and you introduce the new sound, like whatever the drop ends up being, you after it loops around and it's kind of taking its toll on the new drop sounds and it needs something else. It's time for the next thing to happen. That's when I feel like it's time to introduce everything, essentially. And I always call it the trifecta moment, and that's what I try to get in every song that I make. I try to get to the trifecta point, to where every sound that I've made, other than the drop part, because I just transitioned from it, all of it is kind of like full and doing its thing, and it's all sounding good. All the melodies are running together. I've introduced all the layers all at the same time, and it's like it's riding. So you get that 1 minute. It's like the epic moment of the song, other than the drops, where you get it all. And I've noticed that in other songs, when I'm not able to hit that and get that moment, something's wrong. So I've gotten better over the years at listening to my gut when it comes to that, and I've gotten better at hitting the trifecta, what I call that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just something to keep in mind, So if you're struggling introducing all your sounds back in with the new sounds that you created with your drop and everything else, then something's off somewhere, and you gotta fix something. So it's just a good tip there. All right, so let me go ahead and mute this back. And thank you for joining me, DJ Tim Breck. Hope you're having a good night tonight. Let me turn these pads back on. All right, so the sub bass, I use Avenger as well on this. Use it for a lot of stuff that I do. So honestly, this isn't a real complex bass. I've been using this particular bass for the last 3 songs that I've made. I did for Cut Me Loose, the remix, the Tiesto remix that I just did, and I think one before it. It's been working out really well. I'm learning to not overthink it, and it's working out better. Simplicity is working out fine. But I do have other options. And in other tutorials, I'll show you guys some of my other options that I do for basses and all that, but this is just like your basic sine bass, and with the multi-band distortion, it's actually coming out really heavy and boomy and giving me everything that I want. So it's actually caused me to not use some of my other resources when it comes to making low end and all that. So this was working out pretty good. So on this, like literally all I did was just go in and just go to sine and select sine on that, and then I didn't do nothing too crazy. I turned up the oscillator level, the volume level, all the way up here, and I think I turned off the reverb and delay, and went up a little bit with the release and the decay, and also came up with the decay down here below the filter. The mod wheel's already routed by default to the cutoff there, so I didn't do anything with that. really the whole catch with this sub bass is multi-band distortion. It's like been my best friend when it comes to using Avenger. It really helps, all your layers pop, but you got to be, selective on what you use it on, because you don't want your song to be like fucking just bamming. You know what I'm saying? You gotta pick and choose what you want to use it on, and where you want to boost it. Not do it the same on every little thing. So on this one, I did a little bit of a volume boost there, effect boost, and I gave it a huge push on the low end there, and actually reduced on the mid there. But the real key here is that with that boost there is that I added the low end distortion and just a little bit of high distortion to make it a little bit more audible in the other keys. Didn't do anything with the mid there. So that's pretty much all I did with the sub bass. And let's see, I'll show you. I'll go ahead and solo it so you can hear it. And just going out with the release there kind of took the clip off of that, made it smoother, gave it a tail end on it, and just to show you the notes here got going on. So E, B, and C. And one thing to note too is originally I wanted to go down with it, so starting here. And it sounds really rumbly. It sounds like shit the lower you go, but it's like the direction that I originally wanted to go with it, but that obviously wasn't going to work out because it's just making everything sound really like rumbling and like horrible. So obviously I had to go up, and that sounds really good too. And actually it opened everything up for me, and I was able to move on. So that's just a good tip for you when you're doing your sub bass, when you go down to your lower keys and it starts rumbling like that, just move on, go up with it. And it sounds really good sometimes depending on the song that you're making and the keys that you're using and all that. It sounds good sometimes to go up and then back down to that like really good bottom one, and then back up. So, and then like also too, when it loops back around, like the whole question and answer thing that I was talking about, you can do variations. So if I wasn't bottoming out so much, then I could do like high and then low, high, high, low, just give you like a variation. So that's a good thing to know there, because I do that trick sometimes with my MIDI. So that's that. Let's see. And that wasn't too crazy. I know I used to really overthink the sub bass and all that and do too much. Oh, and also too, obviously I got it sidechained to the kick. That's a huge, huge thing. You don't ever want to forget that. And you see it dipping. Nothing too crazy, because I didn't want it to have too much of a of a volume dip. Real fast attack. So that's good. Sub bass sounds really good right now. All right, so for the offbeat bass. I really like it. So we're gonna make this bass here. So I'm just going to go ahead and mute that. Duplicate this because I don't want to mess up anything that's going on there. Let's see. Alright, so now we can make our changes. So I use Serum on this one here. Alright, so let's go ahead and initialize. All right, so to make this right here, and the way I'm going to show you how to make this is actually going to give you a lot of like variations in different ways to be able to do this. Show you. So the key is, particularly with the way I'm going to show you how to do it, is we're pretty much resampling. So we're going to take a sub bass sample already in the key of C, and we're going to drop it in there, and then we're going to add modulation to it. So it's going to end up sounding totally different, and when we're done shaping the sound here, you're going to have more options on getting a different variety of the sound, because then from that point, if you have, let's just say 20, 30 different, bass samples in the key of C, after you shape the sound, then you can go in and start dropping the other samples in, and it's going to still be an offbeat bass, but it's going to sound different, and then you can apply that to a different song or whatnot, so you're not doing the same offbeat bass line with every song. So let's do that. So let me open this up here. All right. So that's what it sounds like right now. I'll go ahead and bring that down a little bit. Actually, just for you guys' sake, just so you can hear what's going on, I'm gonna leave that up. All right. So on this here, I'm going to assign. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and shape my envelope. So on this one here. Put it right there. That one all the way down. And envelope 2. So we're going to do 3 envelopes on this one. And envelope 3. So nothing really crazy yet, but we got our envelopes done. So I'm going to assign envelope 2 to the filter. So I'm going to drag this over here. There, cut our filter on. We're going to do reload 24. And here on the cutoff, on your keyboard, if you press Shift and Alt and then click, it'll change the direction here on it. And then now it's just going to be one direction on that. So we're going to change that to about right there. About right there. All right. I think I'm going to do my drive. Right there. Cool. We're going to assign, we're already starting to get a little bit of our movement there to it. All right, envelope 3. We're going to assign that to the filter cutoff. All right, and let's see on this one. I mean, already not sounding bad. We ain't even there yet. All right, so let's see, LFO 3. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and shape our LFO 1. All right. Oh, actually, yeah. And we're going to assign our velocity to oscillator 1 level. And that's about right there. And we're going to crank this all the way up. Alright. And that's pretty much it for this tab. And then on effects, let's do distortion and change this to sine shaper. Change that to pre. And let's see, on this one, do about 385. Starting to get there now. And let's see our drive there. That's good. And then the mix needs to come down. We're starting to get there. Alright, so next we're going to do EQ. Let's see, go down a little bit. There. And gain a little bit there. And my frequency right there, and gain. Sound pretty good already. Compressor, make sure it's distortion, EQ, compressor. So drag that up. Distortion, EQ, compressor, and that chain. Thresh. Ratio, attack, release, and gain up some. Really multi-band off and mix up. More clipping. Okay, it's done. All right, so that's pretty much it on that, and just to show you, how you can get different variations of this. So, that was pretty much resampled off of a bass in the key of C. But say we put another one in. Now we got another one. So it's a pretty cool trick for doing these offbeat bass lines. So that's that. Go ahead and delete that. And let's see. Let's move on to. So this here, I used Avenger on this, and this is actually a preset. Got the Cyberpunk pack, and it's on in the ARPs on return, and it's actually, I got my own melody playing, but it's the way that I got it set is the ARP is still on, and this is one thing that I actually love about Avenger is even when you don't want to build your melody inside of the arpeggiator, I still like to keep the ARP on and make sure just like the first note, is in the key of C, so it's in key with the song, obviously. And the reason for that is I've learned that the sounds actually come out a lot better and just louder, just more authentic, just better when you're running it through the ARP. So that's just something to keep in mind if you ever use Avenger, that even when you're not trying to make your melodies and stuff in the ARP, just still keep your ARP on, so really See, it's not going through, so don't even pay attention to any of that. I'm not using any of that. It's just because my melody is built here. You see the notes. So E, B, and C are the keys of the song, like I said before. So I pretty much just created a basic melody, little art thing going on between those notes. And it's just noticing here that it wasn't assigned. Good thing I saw that. Oop. So that's gonna sound a little bit better now when I play it with the whole song. Also, too, every channel that I got, I always got an EQ and a cut it for the low end to have its own space and the kick to have its own space. And on this one right here, like really, just the only two layers that are playing is the square bell and another bell layer. So you can honestly like load up these samples all on your own and do that if you wanted to. And I got it transposed up to a plus 36, 12, 24, 36. I think it was 48. So that's that on the pluck layer. After that, I wanted something, another layer to kind of, because it starts out with the offbeat bass line. And I kind of needed something else to introduce, but I didn't want it to be too heavy and too much. I just wanted a layer to kind of go on top of the sub bass and kind of complement it all at the same time. So just to kind of show you, I aim for a virus bass. Those tend to sound really good when doing like the kind of like those kind of evil, kind of real gritty bass lines. But I got it filtered down because it's in the beginning of the song, and if I had it filtered up just starting out, that'd be like blah, that wouldn't sound good. So we're trying to introduce everything, start out at a low point and progress up to a high point. So you're doing that with a combination of melody building up and then also a combination of automation working from low to high, working your filters from the best lowest point to the best highest point. So on this, I just turn the cut off. And then I added a mini chain to it, gave it a small boost here, and gave it the pumping effect. You hear it without. Sounds pretty good. But since I have the offbeat bass line going, doom, 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 it with that mini chain turned off, it's crowding and filling the gaps between that offbeat bass line, and we're losing the effect and the illusion of it. So it's helping to keep that pumping effect going, so you can keep feeling that offbeat bass line kind of doing its thing and sitting in its place. So that's why I did that. And create more movement is always good. Let's see. And in here, I'm noticing I don't have my. Okay, so that's that. Got it cut here on the EQ. And let me show you here the notes. So it's doing the same thing as the sub bass. That's that. Moving on to the ARP. This is my favorite layer right here. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. And you notice as it's going, it's climbing. And just to open up the automation here, you can see I got them. Yeah. Woo! That's so dirty. It's got goosebumps. That's what it's all about right there. You want that shit to happen. Again, so I used the master filter combination of the master filter with filter 1 automated. So you'll notice you can see the automated layer here on the master cutoff, and then filter cutoff. You notice here, like right when it started to get like real intense, see it's going up a little higher right here. And back down. And the reason I'm going back down is because I'm introducing more layers. That right there is where the ARP starts coming in. And if I had that boosted all the way up, that would totally just crowd out the ARP and wouldn't sound good at all. So you just got to keep in mind that you want to keep room, create that room for every sound and find that balance. And it takes a while. It takes a lot of listening, a lot of repeat, but eventually you'll get it, just keeping that in mind. And also making sure that all your stuff is always gain staged and all that beforehand. Every time you add something, just always check your levels and make sure that your stuff is gain staged, because you don't want to backtrack or get stuck on something for a while, just to end up finding out that it sounded bad because you didn't gain stage it, So yeah, just keep things moving forward. On this art bass, I used the amp bass in here in the Cyberpunk pack on that, and I did the same thing. It had all these effects were already here. I just took off one. It had another reverb on there. It actually wasn't making it too much of a difference, so I was able to sacrifice it. So I took that off, added another mini chain to it, and gave it the pumping effect. Without it. That's with it. All right, and the real catch here is in the ARP right here. So it sounded really good having it going up to the next C right here. And this is on a 116. And you'll notice as it's playing, watch the cutoff here climbing. In the master filter, if you ever want to find that, you just click here on master filter. And you'll see it right here. Like I said, on one pole, low pass 6. That's that. And you can do that same thing with pretty much any other bass. You just want to find the right bass that's going to give you that effect. This layer here, I'm still on the fence about. The reason I'm not going to delete it, and it's just another tip too, don't delete your layers just because it's not fitting right now, because you'll regret it later, because you're going to hit a different point in your song later on. Like I'm actually thinking about doing in this song like a complextro segment when it like really starts to go off and go crazy and stuff, and I'm gonna wish that I still had this layer when I start adding all this other stuff. So just because it doesn't sound good right now, I'm just gonna mute it right now, but I'm not gonna delete it, because and I've learned over time that these layers that have been sitting here muted and all that eventually is going to end up fitting in another spot somewhere, and I'm like, thank God I didn't delete that. So this is just what I got on this layer that I'm just on the fence about. Just a little accent, just a little. And another tip too is you can go to Splice and then go to their presets section. And if you got like a Splice account and you got a bunch of credits and stuff, you can just like, instead of buying sound packs and a whole bunch of stuff, like they're expensive and they cost a lot of money. So like you can just go in there and use your credits and just go through the sound bank on Splice for the presets. And when you hear a sound that you like, just use I think each preset is like 3 credits. So actually it's a lot cheaper to go that way. So, if there's like 5 sounds out of a pack of like 50 presets, you can just get those 5 sounds that you like and not have to buy the whole pack. So, and also it's a good way to demo all your sounds too, because it already has kind of MIDI applied to it on the website. So you can hear the sound in action. So you'll know when you hear it right off that, hey, this is going to fit in my song. This is what I'm looking for. So you literally just go through and you type in the different elements that you're looking for, like growl bass, impact, lead, whatnot. You just type in all your different elements and all the different presets will pop up, and you just sit there and sample and just download them and use credits and get it, and then drag it in to where you can access it in Serum or whatever VST that you're using. And that's just a really quick, effective way to get really cool sounds right off rip. And another thing too is you can learn a lot just by going to the matrix on these sounds that you like. And if you want to learn how to recreate them, or add these similar effects to a different sound in your own way, you can totally mimic what you're seeing going on in the mod matrix. And then when you go to the oscillator and you go to each LFO, you can see what's assigned to them, and the same for each envelope. So that's just a good tip there for making your own sounds and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and mute that back. On this sound here, pretty cool sound. I like that a lot. All right, on this here, I used preset Bass Gritter, so you can easily find that. If you go on Splice website, you just type that in, you can find this real easy. I don't think I changed a whole lot to it. I think I messed around with the cutoff a little bit, and I think I messed around with the speed, the rate a little bit, just to kind of give it that pullback a little bit where I wanted it, and that's pretty much it. But I think what really made the sound pop and sit in the mix really well was the over the top Xfer OTT. So I'll mute it and play it kind of like without it and this with it. Like, woo, night and day, fucking dirty. Be real careful. Yeah, farting it up. Yeah, these fart basses. Be real careful though using OTT. Don't go crazy with it and add it onto like everything, because then your track is just going to come out a little too heavy and just like really loud. And you want to have those dynamics. You want to have that variation from one sound to the next. And if you got everything kind of like blasted in the same part of the spectrum, then it's not going to have the dynamics or the feel that you're looking for and all that. So just be real careful on the effects that you're using, how much you're using them, and how much you're applying to it. Sausage Fattener is dope. I don't use it a whole lot anymore. I use OTT, or also with Avenger, I use the multi-band distortion. I use that a lot. I haven't really had to use Sausage Fattener recently. It's been a little bit since I've needed it. But by the same company, they got Endless Smile. And Endless Smile is really fucking handy for creating huge, like cool tail end swells on, transition, so actually that will work out perfect, so, in the next tutorial, I'm going to be working on the breakdown, so one of the next things I'm going to do is create a good transition segment right here for it, and Endless Smile would actually be perfect. So on one of the main sounds that I have going on here, like, maybe, these pads that I got going on right here, I could add Endless Smile to it, and then right before it hits the end, I can go up with the drive on it, and it'll give you like a kind of fade out. So it's like real perfect for creating like a really good tail end effect on things, other than just using like a real huge like reverb and all that. It's just a real quick way of doing it. So that's one thing I definitely still use from the Sausage Fattener company. I can't remember the name of their company right now. So that's pretty much it on the fart bass. Let's see. The next one that I got going on here. So this sound right here, honestly, could be used as a drop lead. I've actually used something real similar to this in my song "Work It." I think I did an intro building up to it, and then did a drop with it too. It's a pretty cool sound, but in this I use it as a riser, and actually I may reintroduce this sound later on into the song after the drop in another moment. So it's just like a cool way of introducing it. So on this one, I did. If you see this preset here, you can crazy duck Henry Fong. Before it didn't have the pitch riser, and I'm going to show you how to do pitch risers in this, so you can apply this same effect to anything, and this is going to help you create really cool leads and stuff like that. I'm just going to duplicate so I don't mess anything up. So let's see on this here. LFO5 was an empty slot, so I went ahead and assigned. Let's go ahead and bypass the destinations on LFO5. So then what I did was, so let's just listen to it without it. So it still sounds cool, but I want it to be a riser because I was using this more as an effect to kind of introduce more sounds and keep my progression moving forward. But this is going to help you do really cool pitch climbers and stuff for creating melodies and all that. I love the sound that you have in Icy Stars. I call it the green part because I don't know what else to call it, but it makes me smile real big every time I hear it. I want to know what sound that you're talking about. I remember you mentioning before that you like the vocal cut, that the wah wah wah. I'm not thinking of what it is right now. So in the Icy Stars, I know I got like the big chords and all that going on in it, and then I got the drop part. Yeah, what you're thinking about is the vocal cuts that I got. So what I did was I took just a vocal, just a vocal sample, and I cut it really, really short, and like what. So if it was somebody saying what, you just take that very beginning part, you cut it really short, so it's going to be like what, and then you just start duplicating it into your track right on measure. So it's like really fast. So that's pretty much how I did that part that you like there. I noticed a lot of people do that in breaks too. That's a really, really popular thing, and it's like super easy to do too. As long as the vocal sample that you're using is in key, obviously it's going to sound best. So just be real sure that you've keyed it up before you start splitting it and lining it out, doing that, so it's going to sound best. So that's just something to keep in mind there. So on this here, we're going to drop the LFO5 up to coarse pitch. So why is it? Notice here when I click it, see how it's switching. If you hold down Shift and Alt, it switches to one side. So the pitch is only going to work its way up on one side. It ain't going to keep going back and forth like that as it's climbing. And then the same thing, drop there, and then there, that would be normal. Click that, switches it to one side. And then on the matrix, I find that it's easier to control it here in the matrix because here it's really hard to see your value numbers, and you want to be spot on your value numbers on that. So if you go into global, double click for typable values, that you want that checked right there. That's important. So, and then when you go back in here now, you can click, and then I put it on 12 because I want it to climb up to a 12. And your other option would be 24, 36, but I didn't want it to climb up that high. So I did a 12 on that one and a 12 on the other one. So both oscillators are climbing up to a 12. So for some reason it's acting funky on me right now. So after you've done those two things, and you'll see, yeah, it's climbing up the pitch. So that'd be a real cool effect that you can add on all types of sounds for doing effect risers, and then messing around with your rate and all that. So that's a fun one there. This other sound was more of a detail sound to add on to this riser. This one here is Flangy Growl Hit Virtual Riot. That's a really good pack. If you go on Splice and in the preset area that I was talking about, if you look up Virtual Riot, they have a whole lot of really good content. And if you're looking for like really, really dirty growls and like really nasty basses and things like that, that sound like what you're hearing a lot of like top producers using and stuff like that, Virtual Riot has that. So that's really useful. So it's a good thing to keep in mind. I didn't really do anything to this sound but work the cutoff a little bit, and the two of them together, so it sounded like a really cool like transition right there. And then the next sound here is I did 2 layers of pads. So boost this up here for you. So I think it's important that when you're working on your song, after you get going and all that, before getting too far into your song, it's important that you take a moment to figure out what the chords of your song are going to be, because you don't want your whole song to be simple. You just don't want to be doing the same thing over and over and over. So if you create chords along with everything that you're doing, it's just going to add more depth and make everything more lush and give you more tone, all that, and make your song sound more complex with just layers of detail sitting back behind everything. So with this here, my song is in E, B, and C. So essentially on those keys and on the shifts, like literally all I did on each one, let's see. On E, just gonna go to high right. Next one goes down to a B, and then C. So I just sit here and I do this with all my songs too. Like I've only taken, I think, 3 or 4 piano lessons from a piano teacher, and all the other stuff I taught myself. Just going online and watching Synthesia tutorials on songs that I like, and actually learning how to play them from watching Synthesia and all that, and then just from learning how to play a handful of different songs, I've created a relationship with the notes. So even though I'm not trained, and even though I'm not a great pianist or anything, I still know how to play songs and all that. But I'm still kind of figuring it all out on my own. But I'm to a point to where I can do that on my own, because I've learned how to play enough songs by myself to where I build a relationship with a lot of the keys. So now when the song is in E, B, and C, I know that when I went down to the B, I was like, when I learned how to play this one song, a while back, I remember going down to that key, and when I went down to that key, I remember these other keys went with it. So now I know I can try those keys. So that's kind of how I got good at finding chords and actually that's my songs have gotten better, because I have more variation now, and it just doesn't sound as so simple like it used to. So that's just a good tip, so take the time to actually go online and look up your favorite songs on Synthesia on YouTube, and sit there on your keyboard and like learn how to play as much as you can in your own way. Don't and a lot of people will say this is wrong or whatever, because I think a lot of people struggle with their where they put their hands when they're trying to play, and that's what held me up when I was trying to learn how to play the piano. That was wrecking me, and it was slowing me down from learning. So when I threw that out of the window and said fuck it, I'm gonna learn how to play the way that I naturally want to play, and I'm holding back because I feel like I need to be doing it in a specific way. Once I threw that out the window and said fuck it, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna let my fingers go where they want to go and do it the way that I want to do it. That's when it all just kind of blew wide open for me, and I just started killing the piano. So that's just something to keep in mind. But that will work against you if you're trying to be a hardcore pianist, because you're going to learn how to play a certain way, and then when you go to learn how to play the right way, the technical right way, you're going to struggle because you've trained yourself and how your fingers how to move a certain way, and it's like untying a knot, retraining yourself on something that you've already learned, and that's where you're really going to struggle. But I'm not aiming to be a pianist like that. I just want to make my productions better and know how to find chords and things like that. And I have a lot of fun learning how to play songs that I like. And then after doing that, finding a way to incorporate those notes in my own way into my own productions. So again, it's just building a relationship with the keys. So that's a really good tip right there. And doing that helped me within like 2 minutes find the chords to this song that I'm working on right now without sitting here and struggling and feeling around in the dark and hitting wrong notes and stuff. I found it just like that. So it's just a good tip. So I did a pad. I did 2 layers of pads. I did a low and a high. I'm using Nexus on this one, and I got the Tiesto pack, and actually used this pack to help recreate my the Tiesto remix that I recently did at the business. The sounds that I made in that, I used this pack to make them because it was going to come across more authentic using Tiesto sounds on a Tiesto remix, and it fucking came out awesome. And what's cool about that is like I learned how to play that whole song, went to Synthesia on YouTube, learned how to play the song, got to where I can play it all by myself without watching Synthesia anymore. And then once I started to make the song, I got all these ideas, and I was able to execute and make a really fucking good banging song out of it and not use any of the stems from the remix pack. I made all the shit on my own. So that's just something to be like proud of because I fucking worked for it and I earned that shit. So the Tiesto pack, I got it on, actually it's the lead, but I got it set up more in the chord structure. And another thing too, in the system here, it's just basically, it's like right in the middle there, but where I got it set here, start from the C3 up to the C5. So it's coming across a little lower. And then on this layer here, obviously the higher one. So on this one here, I got another layer. And on this one, I put it using the Tiesto pack and pads. And I put it on this one on Beauty. And I got the mod wheel turned back because it was a little too intense. And in your face, I'll show you. It's a little too intense, and it was kind of cutting through the mix a little much, especially with the 2 layers that I wanted. So with it tucked right there, and then I boosted it 2 octaves up. You can play the keys. All you got to do is exactly what I just said. Take your think of your favorite song right now that just gives you so much joy and you would love to play so much, and go to YouTube, type in that song, and then put Synthesia at the end, and I guarantee you it will be there. Somebody made a video on how to play it, and just start with the basics. Like I said, don't overwhelm yourself. Just start with the basics, and once you get a part down, you'll get excited, and then you'll move on to the next part. And when you get to that point to where your left hand is doing one thing and your right hand is doing another, that moment is just like, I cried when I first did that, because that's one thing I wanted to know how to do so bad. I always got jealous when I watched people play the piano. Like, how are they doing one thing with one hand and something else with another, and they're staying on, and they're playing two different melodies. They're playing the vocals with one, and they're playing the bass notes with the other one. And it's just like, how the fuck are they doing that? And when I learned how to do that, it just opened up so many like possibilities, and I love to play now just for that feeling alone. So the feeling I get when I produce a song, the joy and all that I get from it, I get that same joy when I learn how to play a song, like somebody else's song that's famous or something, and I'm playing it and I'm doing one thing with the left and another with the right. It just gives me so much joy, just the same as I get when I produce a song and all that. So it's a really good substitute, honestly, for creating happiness for yourself and making yourself feel good when you feel down. There's a lot of times when I feel horrible and I can't figure out how to pick myself up, and I'm like, I'm going to go play the piano. And instantly I'm just feeling better. So, it pays to challenge yourself and overcome. So on these two layers, here you hear them together. Ooh, sounds really good together. So we got the lower one and our higher one. The higher one's up 2 octaves. And you see it's the same here. It's from the C3 up to the C5 as the other one, but I got it boosted to 2 octaves, so it's shining on the high there. But the high, just because it's higher, it's going to cut through and it's going to be louder, perceived loudness. And remember, I used the mod wheel to reduce some of the sound there and make it not cut through the mix so much. So that's that. Get into it. The amen break sounds really good on it. So that's where we're at for that. I'm thinking next I'm going to add a riser to help introduce the transition here. And I'm going to add an impact to help you feel that transition. And then I'm going to create a new melody. And thank you. I'm really happy you're enjoying it. I'm fucking loving this shit. I worked on this for like 3-4 days holding off on doing a tutorial because I just wasn't happy with it yet. It was cool and it was riding, but I still wasn't 100% happy with it. And I was scared that if I did a tutorial and all that, and then I ended up changing it, I would have to end up backtracking. So I just wanted to be sure that I had a really good intro that I do not want to change at all before I moved on, and I want to show you guys. So I'm thinking the next move on the breakdown is I'm going to create a new melody, obviously in the same key, but I'm going to find something else. I'm going to switch it up to like a new melody, something else, but the key is making sure that the velocity is toned down. So when it transitions to it, it's kind of low. So you're working in that new sound, and then we're going to start working up the progression. Yeah, reverse bass. I love reverse basses. And I was actually considering that with this song, and I messed around with a little bit of reverse bass on this, but it wasn't going too good with my offbeat bass line because they're both kind of similar in their own realm. So maybe in another spot of the song, I can transition to a reverse bass instead of the offbeat bass. So I'll definitely keep that in mind. So it's definitely something that we'll work towards. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and this will be available for you guys to go back and reference to on my Twitch page. It'll be there for 14 days before it gets deleted, but I'm going to make sure that I upload this video along with the first video on YouTube, so it'll be archived, and you guys will be able to go back and watch anytime that you want to without worrying, just keep learning and stuff. But we're going to build this whole fucking song, and like I said, I'm not holding back. I'm not making any filler stuff for you guys just because it's a tutorial. You know, like, this is a legit song that I'm like making for myself, and I'm making sure that it sounds dope as fuck. And in return, you guys are going to learn exactly and see what I'm doing exactly and how I'm doing it and the way that I would do it and how I really want it to sound, and not modified for tutorial purposes and all that. So you're getting the real fucking deal right now. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in and being here, and much love to you, and I look forward to helping you guys as much as I can, and hope you guys have a good night. Thank you for all the love.